What Padre Pio saw in his last vision before he died was so terrifying that he could not speak for several days. Today I will reveal his final prophecy, and it is much more shocking than you can imagine. This message is not meant for everyone. If you are not ready to face the truth, you might want to stop watching now. This final prophecy is not for the general public, but for 3 individuals who served Padre Pio when he was near the end of his earthly journey. His predictions were sealed and kept secret for all these years, until now. Today we will be able to see these prophecies come true for ourselves. What makes these predictions so different from those Padre Pio made until now is that each prophecy had specific physical markers that would signal its beginning, a sign in the heavens indicating that it was the time for the prophecy to unfold. Let us now go back to 1968, in San Giovanni Rotondo, the year in which Padre Pio would finish his earthly course and join Christ in heaven. Padre Pio had become immobile, and the crowds of San Giovanni Rotondo knew that Padre Pio's time was coming to an end, for the stigmata that had marked his body for more than half a century had finally begun to heal, signifying that his mission here was complete. Before ascending to heaven, Padre Pio transmitted his final visions to 3 individuals. The first was a priest named Gabriel Mort, the chief exorcist of the Vatican at that time. Father Mort is one of the most famous exorcists, having confronted the devil head-on during his life. Padre Pio warned Father Mort that a time would come when the churches would be filled again, but not with believers. They would be filled with people who would come to hide under the mantle of piety. These people would preach peace while preparing for war, both physical and spiritual, and they would carry golden crosses, while their hearts would be filled with darkness. Padre Pio warned Father Morte that this time would be marked by a series of events within the church. He said that when we see the faithful begin to doubt the presence of Christ in the Eucharist, we will know that this prophecy is about to be fulfilled. By observing the current state of the church, we can clearly see that the moment has arrived. Only a minority of people truly believe that the presence of Christ dwells in the Eucharist. Many participate in the Eucharist as a ritual, not because they truly believe in the principle that Christ left us sacred teachings. Recent investigations conducted by the Church itself reveal that the belief in the presence of Christ in the Eucharist has reached its lowest level in history. We know that believing in the presence of Christ in the Eucharist is fundamental to participating in it, and yet people take part without genuine faith. This leads us to the following revelation given to Padre Pio's doctor, G.P. Massa. This revelation is the most striking prediction of Padre Pio, as it describes one of the most terrifying events in history, the 3 days of darkness. The prophecy of the 3 days of darkness states that the sky above our heads will be enveloped in a blinding darkness that will not cease for 3 days. What makes this darkness unique is that it is a supernatural phenomenon in which spiritual darkness spreads throughout the physical world. Padre Pio asserts that during these 3 days of darkness, people will flee to their homes in search of refuge, but they will not find it, for this darkness will penetrate even their dwellings. Only the faithful will be saved during this perilous period, but they must also perform an act of faith to be preserved. The faithful who light blessed candles will be protected. Padre Pio says that, during this time, all the faithful must be in constant prayer and supplication, for it will be a time of destruction and death. He states, specifically, that we must never open our windows or doors to the outside, for the destruction that exists outside will invade our homes and consume us. This time will be so dangerous that supernatural phenomena, such as hurricanes of fire and brimstone, as well as catastrophes like storms, earthquakes, and tsunamis, will occur all over the world. The 3 days of darkness have also been corroborated by other eminent mystics, such as Maria Giuliani, Saint John Bosco, Saint Faustina Kowalska, and Catherine Emmerich. So, what will be the marker that indicates the 3 days of darkness are upon us? Padre Pio told G.P. Massa that when we see a year filled with natural catastrophes, followed by a winter in which the flowers bloom unnaturally, we can be sure that the 3 days of darkness are about to come. By observing what is happening in the world today, we can be certain that these 3 days of darkness are approaching. But let us pause for a moment, for what follows is truly shocking. If you have reached this far, you probably enjoy this content and would be an excellent member of our community, a place where you can see all our new content before anyone else. and access exclusive videos that are not published elsewhere. If you want to know more, check the link in the description or in the pinned comment. Let us resume the final prophecy. It was given to Lucia Montana, his spiritual daughter, only 3 days before her death. She was so disturbed by this prophecy that she did not speak of it for many decades, but now she has also revealed it to us. What Padre Pio told Lucia on that fateful night is truly disturbing. Padre Pio told Lucia that a time would come when science would reach such a level that men would no longer turn to God for answers. Instead, they would claim to have unlocked all the answers of the universe. In truth, men will die by the millions, while the creators of technology will extol their great machines. There will be a great void that will develop in the hearts of men, for they will try to replace what only God can fill with inventions and pleasures created by man. Padre Pio told Lucia that the sign of this great evil would come when we see men creating life without a woman, and when machines that think like men emerge. Does this not exactly resemble the era in which we live, where man can create life from cells and develop machines and artificial intelligence that think like human beings? If that is what Padre Pio was describing, then it is time for us to rethink the way we live our lives and examine our hearts. Fortunately, Padre Pio gave us instructions on how to survive the era that is approaching. The first is that we must all return to the sacraments, such as the Eucharist and confession, for they are the necessary armor for man to survive the spiritual tide that will reign during this period. The second is that we must pray the Rosary every day. Padre Pio compares the Rosary to a modern spiritual weapon that must be used against all evil. The Rosary and the Blessed Candles will have special importance during the 3 days of darkness. The third is that we must consecrate our family and ourselves to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and also to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. The final instruction he gives us is that we must keep blessed sacraments in our homes, such as holy water, candles, and a crucifix during this period. Padre Pio emphasized that all these prophecies he gives us are not intended to frighten the faithful into believing in God, but rather to guide lost souls into the loving arms of God, so that they may find true rest in Jesus. If people become aware of the imminent catastrophe, they will also recognize God's endless mercies. Therefore, let us fast and pray, so that our hearts may be ready for the terrible times that will soon strike us, and so that, when the time comes, we are recognized as the faithful.